Hi, everyone. And I'm talking today with Ryan Harland. Um, he's a lovely guy. I just met him. I met him on LinkedIn, and he's got such an amazing story to tell. He's an author primarily, but there's much more to Ryan than that. So, Ryan, will you tell the audience all about you?
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me on your show. Yeah, I'm Ryan, and I'm the author of the book called Riding the Storm. It's about my childhood growing up, all the trauma I faced, and where it's led me today, being diagnosed with mental illness. I've got borderline personality disorder, and now I'm just trying to be an advocate for the people who don't know it's okay to talk. Be the voice for the voiceless, you could say. Be the person and say, look, I can do it. I can stand there and admit what I've been through and turn it into a positive, and so can you. So that's what my book and me is all about.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant because I think more people are talking about mental health issues now, but they were really taboo for so long. It was really shameful, up until I reckon during the pandemic, people started talking about it more, and since then. But men don't, men are less, they feel less able to talk about their emotional health, their mental health. And we really need to get more guys being able to talk about it and feeling that it's not a weakness. It's not a weakness at all. It takes a lot of courage to be able to speak up. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
definitely.
incredible.
I think that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book. It was many reasons. I just wanted to put my story down on paper to help me heal from it and get closure on certain aspects.
Mm,
And plus, obviously, as you say, a lot of men refuse to talk about their feelings and what's going on. They'd rather go down the other routes like drink, drugs to cope with all these feelings and that. And obviously, that's not the healthy way. Talking about it is the best therapy you could ever get. That's what I think anyway. And it helped me immensely. So, yeah, I just put myself out there to say that, I can do this. Look, this is my story. I'm not ashamed of it. It's made me who I am today. I've turned all that negative into a positive,
mm,
and I want you to be able to do exactly the same.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that is brilliant because I do get more and more men coming to see me now, and I'm glad about that. And I think, society, and I'm going to say women can be including other men, but women can be party to this, being men not feeling able to speak up, because I've heard women say, man up, act a man, all of that stuff. And I think, you know what? That is really horrible. It's bad enough when another guy says it, but for a woman to say it too, nah, that really doesn't sit well with me at all.
No, I've had that experience in previous relationships. She kept, when I was feeling down and trying to speak about my emotions, that she kept using the words "man up," and that used to fire me up. And we used to cause so many arguments because I would not stand for it. Like, what do you? I can say to her, "What do you mean by man up? What type of man am I not being? I'm physically a man. So why can't I express as a man and express how I'm feeling?" So yeah, I get that, and I hate that terminology. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I kind of, the one thing I read about in your book on the synopsis, it said the sunglasses are not there to protect you like normal sunglasses, he writes in this searingly honest memoir. Tell me more about those sunglasses.
Yeah, when I found out about my diagnosis, I went through group therapy, and they was explaining to us about with BPD and other mental illness, we kind of have filters, the way it's like coping mechanisms, the way we see the world, and these filters are negative. They make us look at a situation that's and turn it into something bad when it isn't. And when I was writing the book, I had this lady, a ghostwriter, help me write the book, and she come up with that terminology. She said it's like sounds to me like you're wearing sunglasses that's putting that filter over your eyes. And obviously with BPD, you could be wearing multiple glasses at the same time. So I was just trying to explain it a way that others could kind of understand how it feels to have multiple pairs of glasses. It feels uncomfortable. That's how we feel all the time, uncomfortable and scared and angry, and that, you know, because you get frustrated with these multiple sunglasses on.
Oh, so they're not just one pair of sunglasses.
Oh no, there could be up to about 10 different
Wow.
filters. Yeah. It's it's crazy. And to learn about these, it opened up my eyes. It made sense of the way I was looking at the world and things like that. And I kind of had to retrain my brain to look past these filters and try to remove some of the sunglasses. You know, I still wear sunglasses every day, but not as many pairs. You know, I can manage with one or two pairs instead of 10. On my bad days, I used to have all 10. And
Right.
I was a merger to handle with, if that makes sense. I mean, you know, to live with, I was a nightmare on my bad days. But this is going
Really?
back. Mm.
Okay. Because I noticed that, yeah, we talked just now, didn't we? Borderline personality disorder. It seems such a strange kind of description of anything. And I've never got to grips with what it meant, but I think they've changed the description, haven't they? It's either emotional intensity disorder or emotionally unstable personality disorder. I mean, for goodness sake. I mean, what a mouthful, both of them. But I wonder, does that help describe it a little bit better for you or not?
I guess it does, because obviously, you know, all my emotions are unstable and intense. You know, whatever emotion I'm feeling is 100%. So I guess it does. But for me, it's always been BPD. I don't know why. That's what I was diagnosed with, and that's the terminology I associate with. But yeah, the other um, terminology does explain it more. But for me
Mm.
personally, it's just borderline personality disorder. You know, that's all I know.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the fact that your emotions are very intense, does that you feel things very intensely, whether it's anger, sadness, whatever. Is
Oh, definitely,
that
yeah.
that because I don't think everybody understands what it might feel like for you.
No, they don't, and it's hard to put into words, especially when I meet new people and I'm open and honest. No, when I was on the dating scene, you know, I was putting myself out there and said, look, this is what I've got, because I thought I'll let people know straight away, and it's their choice before I get attached if they want me in their life or not. But to try and make them understand, it's hard work. You know, my partner now, she's wonderful, but she still struggles with understanding, because she doesn't get why I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. But to her and everyone else, it's a small problem. But to me, it's massive, you know. But
Mm.
she's learning, she's getting there. You know, she knows how to calm me down and to take me away from that situation so I can deal with it better.
Yeah, and I guess it's when you're triggered, and those triggers go back to your childhood and all the awful things that you went through when you were younger.
Mm. Oh yeah, they when I was diagnosed, they said that most mental illness are there from birth anyway, but with all the trauma that I faced, made it more aggressive in my case, you know, and I guess in other
Mm.
people's case as well. They always say it's trauma based, you know, that's where all the it starts from. Mostly the trauma intensifies the whole process.
Yeah. And I think this is something I notice when I'm working with people, that they don't appreciate, they say, oh, they went through one bad experience or one traumatic experience, and then they went through a different one, and then something else happened, and they see them as isolation, but actually they don't realize that is one, that initial one, then you'll have another one on top of it, and then another one on top of it, and it builds that intensity, as you say. And I think that's what it's hard for people to understand. They think, yeah, well, I went through it. Maybe I was difficult birth or pregnancy as a mum did, you know, but you go through it, we go through it as a baby. But then they go, oh, well, that was one thing. And then that happened. Well, that was something different. But they don't appreciate that it builds on top of each other. And I think that's where the intensity is, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I feel like, you know, people think that they've dealt with these issues, but really they haven't. So they're carrying all that negativity unknowing to them further into their life. Then when something else happens, you've got the intense feelings from the previous trauma impacting with that new trauma, which makes it more intensified. Yeah. So yeah, you really have to kind of, this is what I've had to do. I've had to kind of scrape back everything back to the basics to deal with all the trauma and build on from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that I wasn't aware of until more recently, whereas, you know, you hear it a lot with there's people like Gabor Mate, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's someone who talks a lot about trauma. He's Hungarian, but he lives in Canada. He's a doctor, but he knows his own trauma. And there are others like Peter Levine, and they talk about the fact that the body holds the trauma. We don't remember the incident, but the body has the memory there. And when we have that trigger, we feel the same intensity as we did from that initial trauma. And that's what people don't totally understand. They go, well, why are you upset about that? It's so trivial. But what they're not realizing is that when we feel that, and I feel it sometimes, like, why am I so upset about that thing? Because it's not big in the scheme of things, but it's because our body remembers and feels feels the same intensity as that initial wound.
That is so true. That explains it perfectly. But yeah, it's true.
When I kind of was learning about that, I was going, this makes so much more sense.
It does. It's wow. I couldn't have put it better myself. That is, yeah.
And you seem to have stopped there. It seems like that's kind of hit a spot somewhere.
Yeah, it has. You know, I knew that obviously all the trauma I've been through has impacted me in different ways through my life. But just listening to you using words, it's true. You know, these little things that are massive to me are because I'm unwillingly, I'm going back to little child. And that was the only way I knew how to deal with it then. So I'm doing the same now. Obviously not as much because I've learned so much and I'm still learning. I'll always be learning about myself and working on things. But yeah, that's blown me away. That really has.
It's quite, even when I was learning about it, I was thinking, wow, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're all learning. You know, I've been a therapist for 18 years. I did 4 years training before that. So if you like, I've been working on myself for 22 years. But I'm still learning and I'm still healing. And I think that's what we forget, is that people say, oh, you're healed. You've learned about that. You're healed now. No. And I think that can be so upsetting, because we get disappointed in ourselves, or other people get disappointed in us because they're, well, why aren't you sorted by now? Yeah.
Some people think it's so easy. They think that, you know, you can take a tablet or go to 8 sessions of counselling and you'll be healed. It helps, but doesn't fix the problem.
No.
Nothing can fix the problem. You can learn from it.
Yeah.
As you grow older and get more wiser and get more experience in that, but you'll never be fully, you never wake up one day and think, oh, I haven't got BPD anymore. You know, oh, God, I feel completely different. No, that's never going to happen.
No, and I'll say sometimes to people, okay, have you ever cut yourself, had an accident, broken a limb, something, or you've got a scar from surgery, for example. They go, yeah, okay, that happened. Okay, so you've been stitched up, or you've been, your ankle's healed, or whatever limb it was that you broke, or whatever it was. And yeah, you've been stitched up, but you still got that wound, you've still got that memory, you've still got that scar. And I like, well, decades ago now, I broke my ankle, and it's fine. But there's the odd occasion when I'll go, oh, little twinge there. Oh, that's a reminder. That's a reminder that there was a breakage, there was a scar there. And I think when we remember that from a physical side, that's what it does to us emotionally when we've got emotional wounds.
That is perfect. Again, I never thought about explaining that to people in the past. I'm nicking that now. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, nick it, use it. Let's spread the word.
I'm claiming that one. No, but no, that is a brilliant way to look at it. That to say that, like you say, you go through trauma, you get a scar. That scar's always going to be there. That's never going to disappear. The pain can go away, but you're always going to get reminders, and and that scar is going to change you as a person, isn't it?
Yeah.
So wow. That's twice in 10 minutes I've been speechless.
I don't think you're easily speechless at all.
No. My fiance is going to want to know how you've done this.
Well, I've had a lot of practice at it, put it that way. And I really believe in using metaphors. I think they make more sense, if you relate to something that makes ordinary common sense. Well, rather, I don't do psychobabble. It's wasted. No. Like when we're talking about those diagnoses, what the hell does that mean? Put it in language that people understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm the same. I love metaphors. I think there's something powerful about the terminology that you can use these days to get your point across. And that if you're feeling powerful by saying it, someone's going to feel powerful receiving that, and then it's going to wake them up like you did with me. It's going to make them think, wow, yeah, I never thought of that myself. So I love that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been through the mill quite a lot, haven't you? Would you be happy to share with people the kind of, I don't want you to go into a lot of detail. I never believe in people being re-traumatized, but the kind of situations that the traumas that you've been through.
Yeah, my childhood growing up wasn't the best. Mine and brothers. My brother Kev was 4 years older than me. Yeah, we didn't have the best upbringing. Our mum, our best friend, she is one in a million. Our mum, I wouldn't change her in the world. I love her to bits. But the flip side of that, I don't use this term often. Father, I refer to him, and in the book and in where I talk, as sperm donor. Not the most glorified terminology, but that's who he kind of was. He donated some sperm to my mum twice, and then me and my brother. He was a nasty piece of what. He was hardly ever at home when we was kids, and when he made the atmosphere so uncomfortable. He used to beat the hell out of my mum, and me and my brother saw that a lot, and we kind of grew up on the way of doing what he wants to keep the peace, and that went on all my life, to be honest. My mum left him when I was 11, my brother was 15. I carried on going to see him at weekends, multiple reasons. Mostly all my friends were over there, and plus to keep the peace, so he didn't give mum any crap. But I never knew for years why Kev never went. Didn't find out till later on in life, but at 19, I went round his flat one evening, and he put himself on me and sexually abused me. And when I normally say it to some people, I can see their faces look at me, and when I've told people before, they looked at me like, but you was 19, you should know better, you was big. But they don't realise that whenever I was around him, I was that little boy growing up, doing whatever he wanted so no one got hurt. You kind of just go back to his old roles. So I just laid there and done what he wanted and took what he wanted to do.
And you
And I
were
remember,
in survival mode.
yeah.
And when we're in survival mode, we don't act, we're not using our logical brain. You're just doing whatever it needs to get you through that situation.
But people don't normally talk about men being abused. I'm not saying it's any different for women. Don't get me wrong. You know, any type of abuse, physical, sexual, mental, is the worst. But for some reason, if a woman's got abused, straight away she's the victim. Yes, rightly so. But when a man says he's been sexually abused, they don't look at it the same way, unfortunately. They think, well, why did he ask for it? You know, is he just lying? Did he actually? Do you know what I mean? This is what I've had to face over life there. But I kept this inside this evening. I kept inside of me for, I say, a good 7 years after that. And I was due to get married. So I thought, as I'm spending the rest of my life with this woman, this is my ex-wife, we're divorced now, obviously. But at the time, I decided to tell her. The first person I ever told. And she gave me the confidence to go and tell my mum, which we did. Mum broke down, cried, blaming herself. And then we had a little chat. She said, we have to tell Kev. And Kev had already moved up to London at this time. He moved out when he was 18. So he was, what was he? He was just come up to 30 at this point. And this is when we found out it happened to Kev between the age of 5 and 15. For 10 years, my brother was sexually abused by our own sperm donor. And Kev's words to me on the phone was, I let it happen to me so it didn't happen to you. Broke me, because I felt like I let him down. For getting it happen to me, I felt like he's gone through 10 years of all that abuse and trauma. But for some reason, when we had this chat, he didn't want anything done about it. Didn't understand why, but he moved away, got away from the situation, dealt with it his own way. And that was it. You know, that was our childhood, you know, going through that trauma.
Awful. And I'm sad to say I've heard other guys protecting their brothers in the same way. And that's so heartbreaking because you didn't know. And whoever it happened to, yes, I hear that you felt bad about it, but you didn't know. So how could you know? That was it. And I think the other thing is, as you say, that it's hard for a guy. It's so hard because, as you say, or why? And anyone I've spoken to, and I've worked a lot with survivors of sexual abuse, and well, why didn't they speak up? There's very good reasons why people don't speak up, and it is the shame, the guilt. Why did I let it happen? You felt the shame that didn't truly belong to you, but it's still there. And if I speak up, then what will people think about me? And I don't want to upset other people. It's so much involved in it, isn't there?
My main reason, I thought, was who would believe me? Who would believe that a man would sex abuse his own son? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that one as well.
You know, it made me question so much about my life. It even made me question my sexuality at one point. You know, that didn't last long because I knew I was 100% always into women. But I mean, the thoughts come into my head. You know, and I think that's why I had so many relationships after my marriage failed, to prove a point to myself, I guess.
Yeah.
And other reasons, there was other reasons leading up to it. It's all in the book and that, but all the trauma after that event of talking to Kevin, that there was so much trauma after that that all played its part. You know, it ruined my marriage. You know, I ended up having an affair to ruin that marriage because I just didn't give a crap about the world. I felt like, I've been let down so many times. I just thought, well, I'm going to do what I want. I didn't care about anyone else. And I hurt so many people in my life. And I can't say sorry enough for that. But this is the reason why I am the way I am. And I was the way I was, if that makes sense. I'm a different person now. But do you know what I mean? Through all them stages, yeah.
I hear that was such a raw thing to share, and I want to thank you for that, because that's a very to allow yourself to be that vulnerable. I really appreciate that, because I understand how distressing it was for you to share that. And I also appreciate it because so many people you're speaking up for a lot of guys and women who haven't been able to speak up and have felt that shame, which is completely displaced. But I'm also, he should bear the shame. But I appreciate that you felt that shame, and it's so wrong, but I also understand why you felt that way. And not being able to speak up. There's so many reasons. Like you said, not being believed is a major one. Yeah.
That is one of the crux, I guess, of not speaking up. There's so many, but for me, like I said, it was the who's going to believe me? Who will believe that a 19-year-old man would be sexually abused by his own father? And even sperm donor later in life told my ex-wife that I asked for it. So he didn't deny it because she confronted him and he said, oh, Ryan asked for it. And that made me question that for years. And I've come to the conclusion now that if I had have asked for it and if he'd been any decent role model type person, he would have said, honestly, son, we might have some issues here. Are you bisexual? Are you this? Are you that? Let's talk about this. Not, oh, he's offering to me, I'll take advantage. No, because I'm a father myself. I've got two beautiful daughters. I would never dream of doing that.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So I just don't. But the abusers are opportunists. They're bloody clever.
Oh,
they really, they're so smart in manipulation and working out situations to work in their favour so they get what they want.
Yeah, it's horrendous. I even heard a story where a father told a son it was giving him sex education. As you say, you cannot believe the depths to which sex offenders will behave.
The worst one I heard was that they was abused as children. That's why they're abusing now. And I'm like, you've still got, okay, I'm sorry if this is true and you was abused as a child and that, deep sympathy, but you've got a choice. You know how much it hurts and how painful it is to go through that. Why would you want to put it on someone else? So for me, I think that reason is total crap.
Yeah.
I think that's trying to get a lesser sentence or get people to feel sorry for them. I just think it's totally crap.
Yeah. I think people need offenders, those who are abusers, should seek help. And I know it's hard, but there are a lot more organizations out there that will help abusers. It's much more easy with the internet now to be able to find organizations. I don't think there's such an excuse anymore, as you say. I don't think people really appreciate the far-reaching effects that sexual abuse has on a child or a young person. They have no idea. It affects so many different areas of your life: trust, the ability to be open, being able to form relationships, being able to believe. It kind of, how do you trust authority? Because your sperm donor was in the place of authority. So how could you even trust authority? how could you believe that anybody would stand up for you? That it just goes out in so many directions. And I don't think people just appreciate, they go, oh, well, what's the problem? It's done and over. No, it isn't. No. And that's the bit. And I think this is coming over so much from how you're talking, Ryan. It isn't done and dusted. You know, it's not like, you know, certain things we can say, oh, that happened in my life. Yeah, I can move on from it. But that something like that is such a deep wound and affects so much. And I imagine that you felt a lot of anger, but didn't understand why that anger was there. But I should imagine.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but it's that displaced anger, because you're angry at that guy for what he did, but you can't express it. And you don't know how to express it. You don't know why to, all of that. And I think this is what people just don't appreciate.
Thing is, it doesn't just obviously affect the abused people, because as in people grow up, their ways of thinking and acting in life are affecting others as well. So it's much like you said, it doesn't stop there. It keeps going and going and going in different forms. You know, like, you know, I hurt so many people by having affairs and things like that. So that's my trauma passed on to someone else, giving them trauma in a different type of form.
Yeah.
So it's like a nuclear bomb, you could say. Yeah. It goes off, it's just boom, and that's it. And that dust never settles, and it just keeps raining down on so many people. It's evil. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
but I still believe that you can turn all this into a positive if you believe in yourself and try and don't let it kind of ruin your future. Use it as power and turn that power into positivity. You know, talk about it, educate people, you know, make it more spoken about. The more people talk about it, the more it's going to be understood. And I believe it's going to stop so many people committing suicide, because they'd rather do that than talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you're amazing for doing that. I really, really applaud you, and for writing the book, and for keep on talking about it, Kev. Please keep on talking about it, Kevin, to all and sundry, everybody, because the more we get it out there, the better it's going to be. If it changes the life just for one person, I would think, then that's got to be one person who feels they're not alone and that they can speak out. And I really do applaud you for being so brave for writing this book and for speaking out. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on there.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Is there anything you could, just one tip or one thing that you want to say to anybody listening right now?
I guess just don't give up on yourself. You know, reach out, find someone who will listen to you. It doesn't even have to be a family member or a friend. There's helplines out there. You've got Samaritans and other helplines, and that they've done wonders for me over years, because that feeling of just offloading to someone makes a huge difference. So if you can do that once, who knows what it's going to lead you on to. You might have to do it a couple of times. Just don't give up on yourself, and you can turn all this into a positive. It's going to make you a stronger person, because it's going to make you appreciate others and life more than others will ever feel like. I feel like this is what I was put on this earth for, to go through that trauma, to be who I am now, to be that voice and say, look, I'm Ryan. I was sexually abused as a child, but I'm here talking about it. You can too.
You don't have to suffer in silence.
Exactly. You're not alone. That's the big thing. You're not alone.
Isn't it? So much. Right, Kevin, I'm going to put all your details in the show notes, but if anybody is just listening, what's the easy way of people getting in touch with you? Is it your book?
Yeah, I've got obviously the book available on Amazon called Riding the Storm. I've got Riding the Storm on Facebook, Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'm under Ryan Harland. Just search one of them. Send me a message if you want to talk, or just have a rant.
Brilliant. You're frozen for a minute.
You know, I'll always here to listen to you.
Yeah, you're frozen for a minute, but yes, you're there if anyone wants to listen. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you so much for being a guest. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.